Hi there. Tell me in the comments which country and city you're from. He said it like I was a line item on a spreadsheet instead of a person who had built the backbone of their operation. Why are we leasing a system we already own? Just like that, tossed out, with his chin tilted up, voice flat and dismissive. He had an expensive Mont Blanc pen clipped neatly into his shirt pocket, the kind of accessory meant to signal authority, like a badge. I stared at the email on my screen for a full 60 seconds, rereading it slowly before a short laugh escaped my throat. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. My name's Dana Whitaker. I'm 34 years old, and I run my own contracting business out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. For the past 2 years, I've been responsible for high-precision refrigeration logic for a national cold storage chain called Cromer Cold. I'm not on their payroll, never was. I designed and built an off-site system that monitors warehouse temperatures, manages sensor relays, sets alert thresholds, and syncs tracking data across their facilities. It's my code, my hardware, my intellectual property. They don't own it, they lease access to it. And up until that email landed in my inbox, they had no idea how lucky they were. The contract came through Miranda Lane, their former facilities head. She was sharp, practical, and smart enough to admit when things were slipping. The FDA had started circling after a string of violations, and she knew the existing setup wouldn't survive another inspection. She contacted me through a mutual acquaintance and laid it out plainly. She needed a complete logic rebuild, fast, and it had to pass federal scrutiny without excuses. I didn't patch their mess, I rebuilt the entire structure. Custom interfaces, automated escalation chains, dynamic cooling profiles spanning more than a dozen warehouses, all routed through my own off-site logic core. Not cloud-based, not hosted on their servers, mine. And the contract spelled that out in clean, unmistakable language. I handled uptime, compliance logging, real-time tracking, and emergency response. If a truck's cargo drifted by half a degree, the system flagged it before the bay doors even opened. For 2 solid years, it ran flawlessly. No missed alerts, no silent failures. Miranda and I barely spoke more than once every few months because stability doesn't need constant conversation. That's how tight the system was. Then Miranda retired and Colby Gresham stepped in, new VP of Operational Safety, fresh MBA. The kind of guy who wore sockless loafers and thought buzzwords counted as experience. He smelled like ambition and arrogance mixed together. I recognized the type immediately. 2 weeks into his role, he started combing through vendor invoices under the guise of reviewing agreements. Mine caught his attention fast. His first email was polite, almost curious, just trying to understand recurring costs. The second one asked me to clarify what Cromer Cold was actually paying for and whether the system was proprietary. I replied with the contract clause highlighted, bolded, and underlined for convenience. That didn't stop him. A third email followed. We'll be evaluating internal solutions going forward. That was the moment I knew exactly where this was heading. Either he didn't understand the system at all, or he thought he did. Both were dangerous. I responded professionally, attaching a clean, detailed PDF, monthly performance metrics, 0 downtime reports, sensor trace logs. I highlighted the ownership clause again. My company owned the core logic system. Cromer Cold paid to use it. They insisted they'd still need the files. IT would take over from there. I told them I'd send what they were entitled to. His assistant looked relieved. Colby ended the call without a thank you. I didn't send a handoff. I sent a carefully packaged zip file titled Cromer Cold Operational Diagrams Docs Final. Inside were clean architecture diagrams, flowcharts, and a polished interface demo. It looked impressive. Clickable zones, mock alerts, smooth transitions, boardroom-friendly and hollow to the core. No live connections, no real logic. Critical values stripped out. IP addresses replaced with placeholders, logic trees trimmed just enough to be useless, a perfect shell. I included a brief note explaining it was a simulation for internal planning, aligned with contractual obligations. No threats, no emotion, just compliance. After that, I grabbed my jacket and headed to my usual diner on Cherry Street. Cracked vinyl booths, old ceiling fans ticking overhead, the smell of grease and burnt toast clinging to everything. I ordered black coffee and sat quietly while it cooled. When the mug hit the table, I pulled out my phone and opened the Whitaker Logic Core app. Blue icon, clean lines, mine. I tapped into the Cromer Cold account. Every warehouse lit up green, temps steady, data flowing, calm before anything noticed. I navigated to the admin panel, opened live relay settings, and hit the master toggle. Biometric confirmation, thumb pressed, one soft chime. The screen faded to gray. Live data relay disabled. No alarms, no drama, just silence. Numbers froze. Indicators stopped updating. The warehouses kept running, unaware. I took a slow sip of coffee. Within moments, small failures began stacking. Alerts flickered, stalled, vanished. Labels stopped syncing. Barcodes hung unresolved. Workers kept scanning, thinking nothing was wrong. The dashboard held still, then slowly began to yellow. Indianapolis, Savannah, Joliet, one zone at a time. The system politely announcing collapse. I watched, calm as the alerts piled up. The waitress refilled my mug. I thanked her without looking up. By the time I walked home, the drift was already irreversible. Temps wandering, no corrections, loss creeping in. When I kicked off my boots, my inbox was flooding. Urgent messages, all caps subject lines, requests turning into panic. I didn't open a single one. The calls followed. Florida, Illinois, Texas, then the main Cromer Cold Ops Center. I let every single one go to voicemail. Colby tried next. His name popped up on my caller ID with a cheery little photo, some corporate headshot with him smiling like he'd just discovered a new Excel formula. First call I ignored. Second, I let ring all the way through. Third, I declined before the first buzz ended. Then came the text. Hey Dana, just looping back to make sure you saw the earlier comms. Would love to get a quick sync. Having some trouble on our end with the interface you sent. Are we missing a setup step? Need to confirm temp data feed. Warehouse readings aren't populating. Any insight? No sign of that MBA confidence now. They were trying to boot up the simulation folder I gave them, clicking through the shell interface like it was connected to something, but there was nothing behind it. Just static screens, demo buttons, and a clean little logo at the bottom. Whitaker Logic Systems, LLC. I flipped over to my logs. Back end showed hundreds of failed pings coming in from every site. Error 504 logic core, unreachable, checksum failed. Remote host inactive, null response on tag query. They were scrambling and losing data. Without the live engine, barcodes stopped tracking, temp logs went stale, and pallet tags couldn't verify shelf life. Every time a cooler door opened, the sensors should have logged the temp shift and recalibrated cooling pressure. But now, nothing. Just warehouse workers doing their jobs while the system underneath quietly fell apart. Around noon, I finally typed a response. One file, one message. I named the PDF emergency.botrestorationterms.pdf and sent it straight to Colby, CC'd to every name that had tried reaching me since sunrise. Inside, the terms were clear. Reactivation fee, double the standard monthly rate. Payment, prepaid only, no exceptions. Duration, 72 hours of restored access. No handoff, no transfer, no ownership, just a simple reactivation window, enough to stop the bleeding if they move fast. I gave them a direct line to wire the payment. No room for negotiation, no follow-up, no call, just a straight offer to fix the problem they swore they didn't need me for. Within 10 minutes of sending it, my phone lit up again. Not Colby this time, it was legal, voicemail only. I played the message once. Dana, this is Grant Simmons from Cromer Cold Legal Affairs. We're reviewing the terms you sent and would like to open a discussion about interim control. Please call us back as soon as possible. I didn't. That was the thing about systems like mine. When they worked, no one noticed, but the second they stopped, people noticed everything. Every delay, every breakdown, every missing reading. Cold air meant nothing if the data said warm. FDA didn't care about intent, they cared about numbers, and right now, Cromer Cold didn't have any. I poured myself a glass of water, sat back in my chair, and refreshed the log one more time. Savannah, D.C., batch ID lost 249 entries. Joliet sensor group offline. West Phoenix live relay unavailable. They were starting to drown, and I wasn't throwing a rope for free. The error logs didn't slow down, they picked up speed. Lines of red text crawled across my monitoring screen like angry ants. Cromer Cold's IT team was fighting the system like it owed them something, hammering every port, trying to brute force life back into a machine I'd already unplugged. Every attempt registered the same way. Checksum mismatch, remote host unreachable, timeout waiting for logic core. Then a cluster of errors hit all at once. Indiana, Georgia, Arizona, like someone in their office finally lost patience and tried to reboot the entire network off the simulation folder. That alone made me snort. They were trying to resurrect a live operating system using a demo package. It was like watching a toddler jam a toy key into a real ignition. Another wave of logs rolled in. Invalid node, no back-end authority, access request rejected. I leaned back in my chair and cracked my knuckles. Someone from their IT department emailed me a long message, way too long, asking for clarification on mapping protocols and local endpoint configuration. I skimmed it. They had no clue what they were looking at. I typed one sentence and hit send. That's a demo. You're trying to boot a car using a cardboard cutout of the key. Within minutes, more errors popped up. The system was being probed like crazy. Random pings, malformed handshakes, failed signature checks. They were chasing ghosts. They still hadn't figured out the truth. Nothing was local. Everything lived on my off-site core. The folder I'd sent wasn't missing pieces. It was never supposed to run anything. Then the inventory losses started stacking in the logs. Unrecoverable batch data, Joliet DC tag drift, Savannah freezer lanes integrity loss, across Phoenix inbound temperature readings that should have updated every few seconds were now hours old. Some pallets were showing conflicting states, fresh and expired at the same time, and every time an employee scanned a crate, it just threw another error into the mess. My phone buzzed again. Legal. A different attorney this time. Another voicemail, all stiff and polite, offering to discuss interim restoration terms. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Colby, though, he went dead silent. No emails, no calls, no frantic texts, nothing. Either he'd been benched or he finally understood how far out of his depth he was. Around 2:30, the first message from ops leadership came in. We are unable to restore baseline functionality. Need immediate discussion. I didn't reply. Another batch loss alert hit my logs. Thousands of product units flagged as unverifiable. FDA couldn't ignore that. Insurance couldn't ignore that. And the longer they let the system sit dead, the worse the damage became. Refrigeration alone wasn't enough. Compliance data had to back it up. Without data, the cold meant nothing. At 3:40, legal emailed again, shorter this time. Dana, we need to talk. Please respond. I didn't. Then at 4:02, everything stopped for a moment. No new alerts, no new messages. Quiet, the kind that usually comes right before something gives way. 4 minutes later, the Zoom invite hit my inbox. Subject line, Emergency Leadership Meeting today at 4:30 p.m. EST. Participants, CEO, Head of Legal, Ops Director, 2 assistants I didn't recognize, and at the bottom, like an afterthought, Colby Gresham. I clicked accepted, pushed my chair back from the desk, and stood up. It was time to let them explain just how bad they'd wrecked their own system. The second I joined the Zoom call, I saw the panic behind their smiles. Top row was the CEO, Henry Ford-type gray suit, stiff jaw. Nameplate said Douglas L. Kinlan, Chief Executive Officer. Next to him, legal, Gloria something, tapping at a keyboard like her life depended on it. Ops Director sat off to the side, looking like she wanted to disappear into her scarf, and at the bottom corner, no camera on, no mic active, Colby Gresham, silent. Good. Dana, thank you for joining on short notice, Kinlan started. His voice tried to sound calm, but the edge was there. I want to begin by acknowledging the situation. We're aware of the disruption, and our priority is getting systems online. Gloria jumped in next. Yes, and thank you for your previous documentation. We've reviewed the emergency reactivation terms, and while we're prepared to move forward, there are a few items we'd like to revisit, specifically the rate and payment schedule. Nope, I said. Gloria paused. Excuse me? No negotiation. You unplugged the controls, now you want them back. That's the cost. Kinlan cleared his throat. We're not disputing your value, Dana, but doubling your rate without phased billing is... You had phased billing.
You canceled it. Gloria tried again. Perhaps a compromise, partial payment up front, balance on delivery. I didn't even blink. Prepaid in full. No handoff, no ownership transfer, no back-end access. She started to argue, flipping through something on her desk, probably the contract. I waited. Section 14, I reminded her. Control is leased. Logic is off-site. It's not yours. You don't get to rewrite that now. The ops director leaned in, finally, voice low. We've lost track of over 6,000 SKUs. Several batches are unrecoverable. This isn't just a delay, it's a regulatory hit. No one responded to that, not even Kinlan. Colby stayed quiet the entire time. I didn't know if he was muted or just smart enough to shut up. Either way, I didn't care. His little cost-cutting stunt had just run face first into a wall built out of my code and my contract. Gloria exhaled into the mic. There has to be some middle ground. There isn't, I said. What I sent is the middle ground. I'm not selling the system. I'm not licensing IP. I'm not turning anything over. You get access for 72 hours. You pay up front. Then we talk again. Silence. Kinlan looked off screen, then back at Gloria. Can you wire that amount immediately? She hesitated. Yes, do it, he said. I didn't say goodbye. I just clicked leave meeting. 15 minutes later, the wire cleared. Full amount, prepaid. No notes, no questions. I opened my dashboard and tapped into the Cromer Cold Master Relay. The system came back to life like flipping a main breaker. Zones lit green one after another. Sensors blinked in. Data lines reconnected, and the alerts disappeared in reverse. Blast freezers cooled back into spec. Pallet scanners synced with product tags. Order queues resumed, and dispatch logs rolled forward like they'd never stopped. I watched it all from my laptop while sipping cold coffee. They could breathe again, but they knew now this wasn't a plug-and-play system. This was mine, and it never stopped being mine. The next morning, I made coffee and sat down at my desk like nothing had happened. The system was running smooth. No alerts, no lags, no dumb questions. Cromer Cold was back to normal, which meant I could finally breathe. Then my phone buzzed. LinkedIn. Message from Colby Gresham. Tough week? Would love to grab a virtual coffee and share insights. I stared at it for a second, blinked, and let out one dry laugh. Virtual coffee, like we were peers swapping notes after a seminar. I didn't bother replying, just closed the app and opened my inbox. That's where the real message waited. Subject line, long-term partnership proposal, Cromer Cold, sent from the new VP of Business Strategy. Not Colby, some other suit trying to act like the past week didn't exist. The PDF was attached. I opened it. 5-year exclusive retainer, full-time access, direct system control, and emergency priority. The money was big, easily double what I'd made before. On paper, it looked like a dream deal, but under that, it was a leash. They wanted predictability, but what they really wanted was ownership without the title. I didn't even flinch. I pulled up my contract template and rewrote the whole thing. No shared IP, not a line of code, not a single logic map. 90-day paid termination clause. If they walked, they still owed me. Full annual payment due before activation. No net terms, no invoicing games. And most importantly, full control over access protocols. They didn't touch the system without me. Took me under an hour to lock it all down. I sent the new version back with no message, just the file and the subject line. Final version, effective upon signature. Less than 6 hours later, it came back signed. No edits, no comments. They didn't even blink. I opened the live relay dashboard again just to watch it hum, data flowing clean, temps holding, everything where it should be. I could see each warehouse updating right on time. My logic was the heartbeat. They finally understood that. Another message hit my inbox. This one from Ops. Just 2 words. Thank you. I didn't reply. They had the contract, they had the system, and I had the power back where it belonged. The invite came in 2 days after the contract was signed. Subject line: Requested Workshop Infrastructure Dependency Briefing. Organizer: Julian Vega, Director of Facilities. I hadn't met him yet. New guy. Quiet name in the threads. The invite didn't include Colby. Good. It was a 10 a.m. session on a Tuesday, virtual internal audience only. The agenda said 30 minutes. I knew it would run longer. I logged in early. Julian was already there. Tall, late 30s, button up with sleeves rolled, headset on. No ego. He greeted me with a nod. Thanks for doing this, he said. We've got a lot of ice today. No problem, I said. Let's get it clear. People started trickling in. Technical leads from every region, a few warehouse systems admins, some procurement faces in the background pretending to understand infrastructure. A little over 30 names in total. Julian opened the session. Appreciate everyone making time. As you're aware, we recently experienced a serious breakdown in operational continuity. Today's briefing is led by Dana Whitaker, our contracted systems architect. She is here to clarify what we control, what we lease, and what we rely on. He muted. All eyes shifted to me. I shared my screen. First slide: Your infrastructure is a rental car. Big letters, no room for confusion. I'm not here to embarrass anyone, I said, but we're not going to sugarcoat anything either. I'm going to walk you through what parts of your system you own, what you don't, and what'll hit the fan if you make another wrong assumption. Slide 2, color-coded system map. Half the screen was red. Who here knows where your live temperature control logic runs? Silence. One guy unmuted. On-site servers? No, I said. Wrong. Those are just interface relays. The real logic lives on my off-site infrastructure. None of you touch it. Slide 3. Access hierarchy. Only one name under primary control. Whitaker Logic Systems, LLC. Another guy tried to jump in. But didn't we install backup scripts after last week? Scripts don't matter if the engine's gone, I said. You had a dashboard skin, not the wiring. When you pulled the plug, you lost more than visibility. You lost actual control. A few people leaned back. One woman typed something in the chat and deleted it. No one spoke. I clicked to the next slide. Just one phrase in bold. System failure risk. High. Dependency owner? Whitaker Logic Systems. Julian unmuted. So if you go dark again, it collapses? I said. Not slows down, not glitches, collapses. More silence. I let it hang. Look, I said finally, I don't care if you like the setup, but you need to respect it. This system's not here to flatter your IT team. It's here to protect your cold chain. If you want that protection, you follow the rules. Mine. Julian nodded. Understood. I ended the screen share. Any questions? No one had one. Not a single hand raised. Workshop ended 6 minutes over. No one dropped early. Julian stayed after, told me straight. They needed the wake-up call. This won't be forgotten. I believed him. As soon as the call ended, Julian stayed on. He leaned closer to the camera and said, that was exactly what they needed. No one's sugarcoated this stuff before. I gave him a nod. You don't fix fragility by pretending it doesn't exist. He didn't argue, just sat there, thoughtful. Then he logged off. I shut my laptop and let the silence settle. Finally, no cleanup, no backpedaling, no fake compliments, just facts. And for once, they listened. 3 weeks passed. Quiet. System stayed clean. No disruptions, no surprise maintenance requests. Cromer Cole didn't miss a single payment. The direct deposit hit on time, full amount, like clockwork. It was the first time in 2 years I didn't have to remind someone that working tech wasn't the same as permanent ownership. I kept the monitoring window open during work hours, out of habit. Every zone green, every tag syncing, every alert logged and cleared by the book. Then the messages started coming, not from Cromer Cold, from outside. Other cold chain companies, small ones, big ones.
a couple regional players, one national brand I hadn't spoken to in years. Each message danced around the same idea. Heard what happened over at Cromer. Would love to explore system hardening options. Do you offer external logic hosting? Strictly confidential, of course. I didn't answer any of them. Not yet. My contract with Cromer Cold still had 6 months left. Locked, prepaid, bulletproof. I wasn't rushing into anything until that ran its course. But the shift had started. People were talking. They'd seen the mess and they finally understood who held the switch. I opened a blank doc and started sketching a new rate sheet. Top of the page, no post-service billing, no exceptions. Below that, I built it line by line. Emergency restoration premiums, real-time logic hosting, exclusive control clauses, reactivation fees. Everything stacked in my favor. It wasn't about getting even, it was about structure, leverage, no more trust-based nonsense. If you wanted the engine, you paid before touching the keys. I saved the file as 2026 Master Terms, whitakerlogicon.pdf, and dropped it into my locked folder. Inbox pinged again. Another unknown logistics company asking if I'd ever considered diversifying clients. I didn't respond. They could wait. I pulled up the rate sheet and gave it one last pass. No fluff, no loopholes, just stone-cold terms. Emergency surcharge, 25% on top, non-refundable, no post-service anything. Scope lockdowns baked in. If it's not written, it's not included. That was the new standard. I stared at the header, Whitaker Logic Systems, 2026 rate sheet, then saved it, locked it, and backed it up 3 different places. This wasn't just a document, it was the boundary line between old business and the new one. Cromer Cold's collapse had done what no marketing agency ever could. I didn't need ads, I had a story, and the industry was repeating it like gospel. The woman who shut down a national cold chain in under 30 minutes and made them crawl back for access. The contractor who wrote her own playbook, the one no one could replace. I opened a new browser tab and placed an order. Custom Programmable Input Console. Top-tier multi-channel override. Variable response load. Encrypted switchboard. Complete overkill for my setup, but I wanted it. Not for function, for what it meant. When it showed up 3 days later, I unpacked it like it was a trophy. Polished surface, deep black, custom config ports. I set it up at my desk, ran the test, then didn't touch it again. I didn't need to. It was just there. Quiet, clean, waiting. A reminder. This wasn't a job anymore. This was mine. My inbox pinged again. Another new name, another new infrastructure review request. Another chain of warehouses built on half-baked patchwork asking me to look under the hood. I took a sip of coffee. Eyes on the screen. Didn't respond. Not yet. Let them wait. Because now they knew. Dana Whitaker didn't just fix broken systems. I own the way forward.